Lamine Yamal has already played more than 100 matches as a professional, and I've watched every single one of them. The question is simple. Is he really as good as they say? What I discovered will surprise you, because behind the statistics there's a story that very few people know. Today I'm going to tell you about the most important matches he has played. From his beginnings at La Masia, to the incredible anecdote with Messi when he was just a baby, all the way to how PSG tried to sign him for 200 million euros. Get ready, because after this video, you're going to see Lamine Yamal with different eyes. Not just as a prospect, but as a phenomenon who could change the history of football. Let's begin. Lamine Yamal was born on July 13th, 2007, in Esplugues de Llobregat, very close to Barcelona. His father, Munir, is originally from Morocco, and his mother, Sheila, was born in Equatorial Guinea. From a very young age, he grew up in a humble environment in the neighborhood of Rocafonda in Mataró, a working-class area where football was much more than just a sport, it was a way out. That neighborhood left such a mark on Lamine that he still carries it with him to this day. Every time he scores a goal, he celebrates by showing the numbers 3, 0, and 4 with his hands, representing the last digits of Rocafonda's postal code. It's his way of remembering where he comes from and who he represents. From a very young age, he already showed an overwhelming passion for football. He spent hours playing in the street and on dirt fields with friends from the neighborhood. He started at local teams like La Torreta, where he caught the attention of coaches and scouts because of his confidence and skill with the ball, even when he was only 4 or 5 years old. What few people know is that destiny had an incredible story prepared for him even before he ever touched a ball at La Masia. In 2007, the same year he was born, UNICEF and FC Barcelona organized a charity calendar. The idea was simple: to select several children from humble neighborhoods in Catalonia to pose alongside Barca players and raise funds for charitable projects. By pure chance, among all the babies selected was Lamine Yamal. And who do you think was the player he was paired with in the draw? None other than Lionel Messi. At that moment, Messi was only 20 years old and was already one of the greatest prospects in world football, but he was not yet the legend he would become. The photos from that day show a young Messi with long hair, shy and smiling, holding a baby nobody knew. What's curious is that this child would end up, years later, making his debut for the very same team, wearing the same jersey, and being seen by many as his natural heir. At the time, no one could have imagined it, but today those images feel like a prophecy. Messi and Yamal together in a photo when one was just beginning to build his legend, and the other didn't even know how to talk yet. It's as if destiny wanted to write that connection from day one. At just 7 years old, Lamine Yamal fulfilled the dream millions of children have, joining La Masia, the most prestigious academy in the world. That place is not just a football school, it's practically a factory of legends. Players like Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, and of course, Leo Messi came from there. Getting into La Masia meant much more than just training with Barca. For Lamine, it was a total life change. It wasn't only about putting on the blue and red jersey, but about moving there to live, far away from his neighborhood of Rocafonda. At the residence, he shared a room with other kids and followed a strict routine of school, nutrition, and training. It was like living in a bubble of discipline and high demands, designed to bring out the best in every talent. From the very first moment, he made it clear that he was different. His fearlessness with the ball and his ability to beat defenders one-on-one made coaches see him as a special gem. Despite being one of the smallest, he always played with boys older than him, and even so, he stood out. The most important thing wasn't just his talent, but his mentality. Those who watched him grow at La Masia say he was never intimidated, that he competed just as naturally against boys 2 years older, and that he always asked for the ball in difficult moments. La Masia didn't just develop him as a footballer, it also shaped him as a person. He learned to live away from his family, to deal with pressure, and to understand that wearing the Barca jersey is not a privilege, but a responsibility. And all of that before turning 10 years old. On April 29, 2023, at just 15 years old, Lamine Yamal experienced the moment that changed his life. His debut with the first team of Football Club Barcelona. It was at Camp Nou, in a league match against Real Betis. Barca were already comfortably winning 4-0 when Xavi Hernandez decided to give him his chance. In the 83rd minute, the fourth official raised the board, and Yamal stepped onto the field wearing the number 41 on his back. At that moment, he became the youngest player ever to debut for Barca's first team in an official match. What happened next was special. Every time he touched the ball, the crowd rose to its feet. These weren't just polite applause, it was a true ovation, as if the entire stadium wanted to make it clear that they believed in him. In just a few minutes, he attempted a shot on goal, played a through ball that got fans out of their seats, and showed a level of calm that was shocking for his age. Off the field, there was another key detail. Yamal made his debut without having renewed his contract with Barca. That meant the club was taking a huge risk, and that he had a golden opportunity in his hands to negotiate. Just weeks later, he changed agents and signed with Jorge Mendes, the most influential agent in world football. A move that made it clear the Yamal family knew perfectly well the value of his talent. Even though he only played 7 minutes, that night was not just a debut, it was the official presentation of the youngest jewel in European football. Camp Nou didn't just witness the birth of a footballer, it witnessed the beginning of a story destined to define an era. After his debut with Barca, LAMINE Yamal experienced a very special end to the season. He lifted his first professional title, the 2022-2023 League Championship. At just 15 years old, he could already say he was a champion of Spain. But what surprised everyone most was how quickly he also began to stand out at the international level. Just weeks after that debut, he received a call-up to Spain's under-17 national team to play in the European Championship for the category. And there, he didn't just participate, he shined. In that tournament, he played all 5 of Spain's matches and finished with 4 goals and 2 assists, becoming the top scorer of the competition. What's most impressive is that he wasn't just a player for the future. He was already dominating players his own age as if he were a veteran. Spain reached the semi-finals, where they fell to France, but Yamal scored Spain's only goal in that match. That mix of precocious talent and competitive character set off alarms all across Europe. The media began to talk about him as the next great jewel of Spanish football, while at Barca he was already seen as the natural heir of La Masia. At just 16 years old, LAMINE had already lifted a league title, made his debut with Barcelona's first team, and established himself as the most promising figure of Spain's youth national team. And the most incredible part is that he achieved all of this without having played a full season as a professional yet. The 2023-2024 season was the first one in which we saw LAMINE Yamal as a true member of FC Barcelona's first team. And he was no longer just the pearl of La Masia, he was playing week after week in professional football. His debut as a starter came in the second league match, against Cadiz. From that point on, he began to leave his mark. He created danger with dribbles, long-range shots, and passes that broke defensive lines. By his third match, he had already recorded his first assist and was named Man of the Match, a recognition that made it clear he was ready to compete at the highest level. In September, a historic moment arrived. He made his debut with Spain's senior national team in a European Championship qualifier against Georgia. He didn't just debut, he also scored a goal, becoming the youngest player to ever score for the national team in its entire history. And in his second match, against Cyprus, he was once again in the starting lineup and proved that he could be part of the 11 for one of the most competitive national teams in the world. At Barca, Xavi used him as a rotation piece, sometimes coming off the bench, sometimes starting, and little by little he gained confidence. In October, against Granada, he scored his first league goal, becoming the youngest goalscorer in the entire history of the competition. He had just turned 16 and was already writing his name into Spain's record books. His first Champions League experience was also special. He made his debut against Antwerp and showed flashes of quality, proving that his talent could shine even on Europe's most prestigious stage. In his first full season, he didn't just play in the league and the Champions League, he also experienced his first Clásico against Real Madrid. He came on as a substitute in the 76th minute, and although he had only a few minutes, his speed and fearlessness were noticeable on the field. The season had its ups and downs. There were matches in which he was an undisputed starter, and others in which he lost prominence to players like Rafinha or João Felix. But even in those moments, Lamine always responded with quality and showed that, although he was still a teenager, he was already ready to be decisive in the biggest matches. By the end of the year, his resume was impressive. League goals, key performances in the Champions League, records with the national team, and the feeling that Barca had found its new jewel. Lamine Yamal's first season was not just promising, it was historic. But his true breakthrough came with the senior national team at the 2024 European Championship. Against Croatia, Italy, Germany and France, he was key with assists and even a historic goal in the semi-finals. In the final against England, one day after turning 17, he provided the assist that opened the scoring and lifted the trophy with La Roja. He finished the tournament as the best young player, with records no one had ever achieved at that age. The arrival of Hansi Flick on the bench of Football Club Barcelona marked a new chapter in Lamine Yamal's career. After a season full of ups and downs under Xavi, where he alternated between starting and coming off the bench, the German coach decided to give him a much more defined role. Flick, known for his tactical discipline and for getting the most out of young talent, saw in Yamal a rough diamond. His first major decision was clear: to make him the undisputed starter on the right wing. For the German, there was no doubt Lamine was not just a prospect. He was already a fundamental piece of Barca's attacking system. One of the most visible changes was his defensive contribution. Under Flick, Yamal no longer just beats defenders and dribbles, he also presses, wins the ball back, and helps the fullback with defensive coverage. That intensity is a hallmark of German football, and little by little it has been turning Lamine into a more complete player. He also worked heavily on his decision-making. Before, Yamal tended to take on defenders every time, instinctively looking for the dribble. Flick pushed him to vary his play, knowing when to dribble, when to release the ball quickly, and when to surprise with a change of pace. Because of that, his assist numbers and chances created skyrocketed. Another key aspect has been confidence. Flick didn't hesitate to give him minutes in big matches, even in Clásicos and Champions League games. For a 17-year-old, that means a lot. That trust has allowed him to play with more freedom and dare to try things he might not have attempted before. In short, Flick's influence has turned Lamine into more than just a talented winger. He is now a complete attacker, with defensive work rate, game awareness, and a presence that feels far beyond his years. What was once a rough diamond is now starting to look like a gem cut with German precision. And all of this change is clearly reflected in the current 2025-2026 season, which will be remembered as the first in which Lamine Yamal took on the role of a true leader at Football Club Barcelona. He is no longer the 16-year-old who surprised everyone with his boldness. At just 18, he has become the face of Hansi Flick's project. The moment that symbolized that change came when he was given the number 10 shirt, the most sacred number in the club's history. A shirt previously worn by legends like Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, and, of course, Lionel Messi. The fact that a teenager wears it on his back speaks not only to his talent, but to the absolute trust the club has placed in him. Under Flick's leadership, his role is clear. He is the attacking reference on the right wing, the player everyone looks for when the match gets complicated. But unlike previous seasons, his influence is no longer measured only in spectacular dribbles. Now he is also a constant creator. He provides assists, leads attacks, and above all takes responsibility for scoring in key moments. In the Champions League, Yamal has been a standout with decisive goals in the group stage, establishing himself as one of the most dangerous players in Europe. In La Liga, he has become the team's top assist provider, showing that his game has matured and that he can carry the weight of being the number 10. Most importantly, however, is how his mentality has evolved. Lamine no longer plays like a prospect, but like a leader. You can see him encouraging his teammates, demanding the ball when the team is under pressure, and lifting Camp Nou with every play. Flick has turned him into a more complete footballer, and the number 10 shirt has completed that star aura. In just a few months, Lamine Yamal has gone from being Barca's future to being its present. With everything he has achieved, the big question now is, will Barca be able to keep him for much longer? The club's financial situation remains complicated. PSG would be willing to put as much as 250 million on the table, and even his own father is a known Real Madrid supporter. Today, Lamine is still wearing Blaugrana, but will it be forever? Nobody knows. The only thing that's certain is that Lamine Yamal is already one of the biggest prospects in world football. Do you think he'll stay at Barca, or that his future lies at another club? Let me know in the comments. Like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe, and turn on the bell, more stories are coming. See you in the next video, cracks.